Remakes are a risky venture. They can either bring a gust of fresh air, or just completely miss the point. And while there are some decent, if not remarkable K-drama remakes, more often than not, they just can't compare with the original. Today, let's recount these sad occasions where the original is so good, it's hard to live up to, making the remake completely pale in comparison. Number 1. Cheese in the Trap. Well, Cheese in the Trap, the K-drama version, was actually decent when it started, seeing that we get Kim Go-eun and Park Hae-jin as the main characters, and also Lee Sung-kyung and So Kang-jun as the second leads, making for an eye-candy fiesta. The acting was also decent, as all the actors pulled convincing performances that hooked the audience to the characters, and whatever's going on the screen. However, compared to the very well-written original webtoon, Cheese in the Trap can be said to be a hot mess. The reason? Well, first of all, the K-drama completely ruined Hong Sol, aka our female protagonist. In the original series, Sol does have the tendency to avoid trouble and confrontation, but she's by no means the type to get forced to do things she doesn't want. Rather, she knows how to have fun, which makes the drama Sol seem kinda wimpy in comparison. Second, there is the issue that we all have a problem with watching the K-drama. Chung and Sol's relationship development was questionable. As in, why the hell did Sol choose Jung over the bestest second lead In Ho questionable? But in the webtoon, it kind of makes sense. In fact, Jung and Sol had grown closer slowly over time as they shared a class, went through difficulties, and had each other's backs. And finally, the drama completely ruined Jung's character, making him this heartless, cold dude that just decided to drop his girlfriend and then ignored her for years. Meanwhile, we have a very, very happy and reasonable ending in the webtoon. So frankly, if you are mad at how Cheese in the Trap ends, that's a cue that you should check out the original. Number 2. Boys Over Flowers. We all have nostalgia for Boys Over Flowers, as it was the staple childhood series that has sentimental values, a very gorgeous cast, and was massively popular, with ratings surpassing 40% during air. This K-drama was certainly a decent series even after all this time, but frankly, compared to the original version, a manga called Hana Yori Dango, there's many aspects where the K-drama falls lackluster. For one, like Cheese in the Trap, Boys Over Flowers also made the huge mistake of ruining the female lead. In the K-drama version, Janti endured her bullying without much reaction aside from screaming at the bullies, while her manga counterpart had much more backbone, basically rendering everyone speechless. And frankly, she was strong throughout it all. She pays her bullies back, doesn't commit suicidal acts over an amnesiac boyfriend, and is overall a very likable character. In general, though, the manga series was actually way brighter than its Korean adaptation, making it a more enjoyable journey for me personally. Gu Junpyo was harsher than his childhood manga counterpart. The manga Jandi actually has support from many people at the school instead of being singled out. The manga villains all had their redemptions. The list goes on. Nevertheless, I did enjoy the drama quite a lot, especially the bits about the side couple. The K-drama gives Kim Boom and So-eun a somewhat hopeful ending, instead of separating them like the original. Gotta give them kudos for that. Number 3. Liar Game. Okay, disclaimer. Liar Game is pretty neat. The acting was pretty brilliant, the game mechanisms were complex but interesting, there were interesting messages, and the pacing was top-notch. But as a fan of the survival game genre, like Squid Game and Alice in Borderland and Battle Royale, Liar Game the K-drama totally diverges from the central purpose and theme of the OG Liar Game. Yes, both follow a naive woman and her super genius partner on their way to win complicated games and earn money and all that. But the premise of the Korean version, where it was all a broadcasted game show, eliminates the high stakes that competitors were under. In the manga, it was all secret and illegal. You sustain heavy debts every time you lose a game, and you aren't able to leave the scene easily, which makes it personally more thrilling. Furthermore, Liar Game the K-drama was way more melodramatic. It introduces this Begaplot revenge plot where all the main characters are connected, and solving this political thing took a lot of time. As a result, the actual games were rushed, and we didn't get to see enough strategizing and mind games, which were supposed to be the star in survival series. I also didn't like that the female lead was made pretty much useless in the K-drama. Sure, she was naive, too believing, and perhaps annoying with her blind trust in the original, but she can sway people to her side and use her soft nature to her advantage. She represents humanity, and thus, is an important character that drives everyone in the manga. All in all, I'd say Liar Game works great as an independent series. But with that title, it has a lot to live up to. Number 4. Playful Kiss. Produced by Group 8, the same studio behind famous K-dramas Princess Hours and Boys Over Flowers, at the same time starring the then-famous Kim Hyun-jung, Playful Kiss, which was adapted from the widely popular manga series Itazura na Kiss, was a very highly anticipated series. However, despite all the surrounding hype, this K-drama scored an average rating of 4.9%, and basically became the lowest-rated drama of the year. Well, the series had retained the Japanese version's plot, with the bubbly Ohani and her one-sided crush, and cold and smart Baek Sung-jo, and kept similar events, but did it in a pretty poor manner. For one, Playful Kiss's humor seems forced at times. Baek Sung-jo in the K-drama version was just way too emotionless and mean throughout the entire series. He also didn't have much character development, and neither grew sweeter nor more caring as the series resumed. The female lead Hani was also pretty bland. She never stood up for herself, and her life just seemed to revolve around one guy, which just did not click well for me personally. Sure, it was somewhat enjoyable, and I did crack up a couple of times, but Playful Kiss just didn't have the old-time charm of the original. And most importantly, having next to no kissing scenes, despite Kiss literally being in the title. Number 5. Tomorrow Cantatabile. Now, I have to make one thing clear. Tomorrow Cantatabile the K-drama has a lot to live up to, as it was adapted from possibly one of the greatest Japanese rom-coms of all time, Nodame Cantatabile. The original was madly popular all across the world, and had spawned one TV series and 2 extremely successful movies in Japan. It was a beautiful journey of classical music, with brilliant OSTs, casting, and a thoroughly enjoyable story. On the other hand, we have the K-drama adaptation, with a similar story of 2 contrasting personalities. The cold and arrogant Cha Yu-jin, who dreams of being a music conductor, and the eccentric and wild pianist Sol Na-il. Brought to life by Ju-won and Shim Un-kyung, the characters were solid, and it was easy to root for them. However, Tomorrow Cantatabile fell into the same old K-drama trap of over-dramatization and getting political. Compared to the original version, the K-drama has way more conflict, and in many ways, it's the dramas that are the focus of the show. There was scheming, an evil second female lead, a dramatic disbandment, which all overshadowed music, which was supposed to be the show's true star. While the Japanese series seemed like an ode to classical music, the K-drama version just seemed like a normal coming-of-age set in a musical background. And honestly, it seems as though the Korean audiences thought the same. Many criticized the absurd script, the stage directing, and called it an all-over-the-place drama. The series' rating also became worse over time, dropping from 7.7% in episode 1 to a mere 4.1% in the final episode. And that's the list. Did you enjoy the aforementioned remakes, or did they disappoint you? Have you ever loved a series dearly, only to be terribly let down by its remake? Feel free to share with us your thoughts and feelings in the comment section. And if you want more videos like this, like, share, and subscribe to bbalidrama. We'll come back soon. See ya!